Welcome back to Pearl Magazine. Last week, we went to check out skateboarders and the evolution of the sport in the city. In the second of our two-part skateboarding series, Tina Jiang explores the struggles and rewards in skateboarding.
I started getting into it because I just watched a skate video and it looked sort of cool, and I wanted to catch up.
Today is a hot summer day. A young skateboarder, Chasey Feng, constantly practices his new tricks under the sunshine.
When you're doing two really big stairs, it's really scary. One time I fell on a really big down rail. I just fell, kissed the floor, popped my braces, and I got a big bruise around here. And then since the brace popped, there's a cut in here too, and here was swollen.
But the 9-year-old has never thought about giving up.
Because after the big fall, I could still get up, so I knew after I recover, I can still go skate.
His father, Victor Feng, was deeply moved by the commitment and has been completely supportive of his son.
Under this heat, 34 degrees, he can keep doing the same thing for over 3 hours, keep falling, keep coming back up. If a child is that committed to one thing, how can you not be supportive?
After the Olympics, you can see skateboarding on TV. In fact, the image has changed. You won't think skateboarding is bad. On the contrary, when people see you stepping on it, they will think it looks good.
26-year-old Ting Lui is one of the members of the Hong Kong skateboarding squad team. She says that since Tokyo 2020, the recognition of skateboarding has directly led to a surge of younger kids skating.
Many young parents let their children try skateboarding, and now some children are starting to improve their level. So there will be more Hong Kong team members.
10-year-old Li Pak Lam has been skateboarding for 3 years.
I love the speed and jump high. The feeling is so awesome.
His parents are excited that their son learned to be persistent and found his passion. They're also trying to support him in many ways.
We bring him out to skate almost every day. We went out and traveled around the world, the United States, to see how the people played around the world. They're really awesome. We try to balance. We do more preparation for his homework, schoolwork, so that he can do more efficiently and then can get more time to do skateboarding.
Warren Stewart, a veteran skateboarder, is the head coach of the Hong Kong skateboarding team. He has been coaching these young skaters for some time. He notices that parents' attitude towards skateboarding now is very different from the past.
My dad absolutely hated my skating. He thought it wasn't a proper sport back then. And together with all the negative aspect of skateboarding, it just further, reinforced his idea that this is a bad, bad thing. I had to hide my skateboard from him. He would say to me, "Why don't you come with me to the country club? Play squash or tennis with my friends' kids. You got to start networking now. You make friends with these people and it might be useful for your future." So I appreciate what my dad was doing, but it wasn't me.
That was also one of the reasons why he returned to Hong Kong.
Because in London at the time, he hated my skating. So one year, 1989 or 1990, I returned to Hong Kong for a summer holiday and I didn't go back. I figured I'll just stay here because Hong Kong is one big skate park. Look at the whole city, stairs, ledges. I love it here. I met some friends, and then with one friend, we opened a skate shop in 1991. It was more like a youth center. Everyone hang out in the shop, watch skate videos, go skate later. It was kind of like a kid's dream.
Although his skate shop is closed now, Warren still maintains good relationships with many young business owners.
Hey, Pravesh, what's up?
Yo, what's up, Warren? I've been in Hong Kong skateboarding industry for 20 years, and then I don't see anything closer to other Asians. You see Japan, they won Olympic Games, they got gold medals, and then you see the levels in Hong Kong stuck in there. So should we do something else?
Pro B opened a skate shop 3 years ago, and he also hosts contests for local skateboarders to compete and improve, and sponsors young skaters in his own way.
Now I still have 2 sponsored skaters, 10 years old, and then the other is 12 years old. I can see their talent. I want to support them to keep on skating. They can just come and change everything from time to time. Try something that may be harder so they can improve. And we try to keep them skating instead of working for restaurants to get some money to get product. That's wasting time.
Proby's skate shop is located inside an indoor skate park, which is operated by another skateboarder, Tuk Tuk.
I've been there. I used to be a marginalized youngster, a young man with nothing to do on the street. After I got a skateboard, every time I made the trick, people around me might look at me. At that time, there were very few people skateboarding. I feel cool and have a sense of success. Now relying on skateboarding, I started as a skateboarder and became an athlete and a coach. I opened this venue. I think skateboarding has changed me a lot. Skateboarding gave me many things.
Tuk Tuk has been skating for more than a decade, and over the years has been teaching skateboarding to many marginalized youngsters.
How to change young people? First of all, he needs to think it's fun and stylish, so he will get in touch with it, meet a lot of friends and watch videos online. All of them are in English, and he can learn English. We are actually good friends at the skate park, and when we meet everyone, we nod heads or say hello with fists, so it will be good communication.
Warren appreciates that a lot of like-minded people want to give back to the skateboarding community, rather than just being skaters themselves.
In a place like Hong Kong, overheads are expensive, costs are high. So for someone to go into skateboard business, the margins aren't quite high. To some extent, I believe they genuinely support the sport.
Now Warren spends more time coaching the young generation of skateboarders because he believes that they are the future. Sherman Tang is one of his students.
There you go, Sherman. Boom, nice one.
I used to just go hang out with my friends on the weekends before I skateboarding seriously. And then now I would skate 4 to 5 times a week. I really hope I can become a professional athlete for Hong Kong, because I believe that skateboarding is a sport that I'm decently good at, and I can make Hong Kong proud of this sport.
Sherman has been skateboarding for around 6 years, and what he has learned is more than just tricks.
I'm like a person who is really scared of a lot of things. I dislocated my arm twice when I was small, during skateboarding, so it really scared me. And I hope that ever since then I have gotten better at overcoming my fears.
One of Sherman's skater friends, Jamie, learned about competition and friendship at the skate park.
Sometimes you'll not land a trick for over a month, and then when you see other people land the trick that you've been practicing for so long, you'll be very frustrated. You try to push yourself more. The friends that I meet in the skate park motivates me to continue skateboarding, even though we fall a lot of times, but then we still continue skating, because if you feel the happiness of landing the trick, you just come back to it.
Okay. Yes, Jamie, nice one.
Now, with excellent facilities and passionate youngsters, skateboarding should be able to thrive in Hong Kong. However, Warren worries that some existing rules will hinder the development of the sport.
There's a lot of kids 5 years old and above that are really quite skilled in skateboarding, but officially in Hong Kong, skate parks don't allow anyone below 8. Remember the last Olympics, the medalists were 13, 16, 17, right? If officially Hong Kong kids cannot start skateboarding until they're 8, there's no way we can compete with our peers in Asia who are already Olympic champions at 13. They started probably when they were 4 or 5, because physiology for kids, once they reach the age of 4 or 5, they start to get that hand coordination. When you go to other parts of Asia, like Japan, they have kindergarten classes. Kids as young as 3 years old starting skateboarding.
He also hopes that the government can open up the deep bowl inside the skate parks to the public.
Taiwan, or even in China, Japan, they have 7, 8-year-olds doing 720s and 900 spins in these bowls. But here, the bowls are off limits. Hong Kong is one of the only places in the world that has this rule where the deeper bowls are blocked off and subject to registration and monitoring for use. We're having a lot more resources poured into here, but The expectation is that we're going to go to the Olympics, we're going to have a lot of young sports stars, but that can only happen if we also modify those rules. Put the age back down to 6 years old to match other roller skating rings. Hopefully, when more people skate, you'll get talent.
Not only does street skating have an influence on street culture, but it also influences the fashion world.
People who are into street fashion would see skaters wearing certain way or certain clothes, certain shoes, a certain type of style, and they would copy that because they thought, oh, skateboarders were cool, so if skateboarders are doing it, it must be cool. So there was a phase, of course, of sneakers, baggy pants, big chunky sneakers, big baggy clothes, ball cap.
However, real skateboarders don't mix and match their outfits. As a veteran skateboarder for decades, Warren Stewart says that there are unwritten rules.
When you judge someone or you look at someone, you look at their skate style, their fashion sense, that says a lot. There's a lot of fashionistas out there, a lot of streetwear people. They're wearing some expensive brand sneaker with a swoosh on it, very limited edition, but the socks right above it is a different brand. So you're really like, okay, this guy doesn't know. He can afford those shoes, yeah, but he doesn't know how to wear them. You're really kind of like, that guy's not, not one of, the people in the know, so to speak.
So, how does one dress like a real skateboarder?
I'm old school. I believe in the skate world. If you wear a certain brand shoe or a certain brand clothing, then you shouldn't clash. So if you have a shirt with a swoosh, wear shoes with a swoosh. Don't wear it with a stripe.
As global fuel prices increase and are exacerbated by the Russia-Ukraine war, CLP recently raised the net tariff rate by 19.8%, while Hong Kong Electric raised it by 45.8% in January. But that didn't deter the use of electricity in the city, where summer temperatures can go up to almost 40 degrees Celsius. Demand for air conditioning means buildings in Hong Kong consume more than 90% of the electricity, of which 30% is consumed by the air conditioning system, resulting in a higher electricity bill and more carbon emissions. Scientists have been searching for ways to reduce the heavy reliance on electricity. A few years ago, a group of Hong Kong scientists discovered that the silver desert ant is one of the most heat-tolerant creatures, surviving in environments well over 60 to 80 degrees Celsius.
Sahara sulfur ant can survive there due to their very particular hair structure, so to emit their thermal heat to the cold universe and reflect almost all solar radiations.
This university spent 6 years developing a technology to mimic the silver ant to reduce energy consumption.
Because the hair structure, so we use the raw material like silver or those metal material to copy the hair structure with their particular size to achieve a high solar reflectivity.
But silver is relatively expensive, so turned to the cheaper aluminum sheet and white paper-based material, but none of them worked well. 2 years ago, So and his team developed this cooling paint, which can be applied on the surface of building materials. So says the paint can lower the ambient temperature, reflect radiation, and mitigate global warming.
Because the reflectivity can achieve like a 95%.
How do you manage to do that? Can we use any kind of paints?
We cannot, because those traditional paint, the reflectivity is about 80% or 75%. To achieve the ambient cooling, we need a solar reflectivity at least 90% or above, plus 8 to 30 micron mid-infrared emissivity. The range is also about 95%.
Professor So let us test the cooling paint. First, we apply the radiative cooling paint on this wooden board.
This is normal paint,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But they look the same.
Yeah, look the same. So, which means no matter the mechanical strength, the waterproof, whatever is similar to the normal paint. But on top of normal paint, we achieve one more feature, that is the passive radial cooling performance.
After we applied the cooling paint on the wooden board, and then we applied normal paint on the other board. We put them under the sun, and the temperature of the cooling paint is 34.2 degrees Celsius, while the normal paint is 43.9 degrees. So and his teammate received funding from the university to establish a startup company and introduced the cooling paints to the market about 6 months ago.
If we can apply this kind of radial cooling paint on the exterior walls or the rooftop of a building, it can reduce indoor air temperature, say like 1 degree Celsius. Even reduce 1 degree Celsius of indoor air temperature, we can save about air conditioning system, traditional one like about 7 to 10%.
Martin Chu is responsible for the business operations. He says the majority of his clients are the Hong Kong government and commercial buildings landlords. Chu says his clients apply the paint on the rooftops, the top of the containers, and the water chillers. Since the power companies increased electricity tariffs this January, this landlord applied cooling paints on the water chillers on the rooftop of the shopping mall in Causeway Bay in March to reduce electricity costs.
The electric bill about $3 million per month, but now this year the increased electric fee over $4 million. That means client focused for energy saving. To improve the chiller efficiency, the best option is to lower the cooling tower water temperature, which is why we decide to use the paint.
The landlord applied cooling paints, which is called eye paints, on some water pipes for the water chillers, and normal paints on the other water pipes.
You will see the eye paint, use the thermal scan, you will see the result, the blue color, that means the temperature drop. About the surface temperature about 22 degrees. For normal paint, you will see the pipe red color. That means very hot. About 34 degrees. You will easy to compare the normal paint and eye paint result. Maybe drop over 10 degrees if you the eye paint. Energy saving of over 1,000 kW per day. That means about $2,000 per day saving. This saving can even double on hot summer day.
The landlord hopes to also reduce carbon emissions because of the reduction of energy consumption. In Hong Kong, of the 50,000 buildings, 81% are residential buildings. Only a small percentage is industrial, and the rest are mostly commercial.
Assuming that all the buildings in Hong Kong have applied with our materials, there will be more than 600,000 tons of carbon emission can be reduced annually.
Martin is now working with the Home Affairs Department to persuade owners in the residential buildings to apply the cooling paints. Mr. Chow, a representative of the management office of this building, has a meeting with the owners of the flats on the top floor about the paints.
Basically, they agree to the cool paint application. It is popular because it is effective. It may be waterproof and heat insulated. Also, it looks good and properly durable.
An owner of a flat on the top floor tried the paint a few months ago. Now Mr. Chow and the other owners check out the painted area on the rooftop.
They need to use like 700 to 800 Hong Kong dollars per month in electricity fee, and they can like reduce 150 kilowatt hour per month. It's like 200 Hong Kong dollars. That's around like 20%.
All the owners now agree to apply the paints. Mr. Hao is living on the top floor and turns on the air conditioner for hours, particularly in the evenings during the summer. He is paying more than $500 per month for electricity.
The electricity tariff keeps increasing, but it's getting hotter and hotter. Also, my unit is facing west, which is affected by fierce sun. So I need this kind of paint. It is waterproof and insulated. I heard less consumption of air conditioning system, and you don't need to turn on the air conditioner so early. Also, I heard electricity cost is reduced a lot, almost $200 reduction. It's less hot. Electricity bill is lower, so it is good.
How much for a bucket?
Yeah, for bucket, we like to do the set of 15 kg per bucket, and we do like 4,000 to 5,000 Hong Kong dollars per bucket, which is enough for around 300 to 400 square feet. Yeah, so for example, for this whole roof, it is around 3,000 square feet something. The material cost will be around 50,000 Hong Kong dollars.
Then it's more expensive than the normal paint.
Yeah, around maybe 10 to 20% more expensive, I guess. But we can provide the cooling effects and also the waterproof effects. So the benefits to the users and the owners is very obvious because they can just get it paid back within 1 to 2 years.
But Martin says complicated ownership in residential buildings can be a hurdle.
The ownership of the whole roof may not belong to a single owner. They may be shared by more than 10 owners. So if you need to apply the material to the whole roof, we need to coordinate for all the owners to agree on this project. But for some clients, they may say that, oh, I'm the owner of the building or the room, but I'm not the user of the room because they may rent it to someone else. So maybe this is not their first priority to have this renovation or upgrade of their roof. For this case, we need to coordinate with different owners for the roof.
He is now working with NGOs like the Society for Community Organization to offer cooling paints for free to low-income families in subdivided flats to reduce their financial burden. They tried again. Then they checked the rooftop environment. Martin thinks it is viable to apply the paint on the roof.
You see that the roof is actually empty so that we can clean the surface, remove the dust or some other items so that we can paint our material on the roof. Because as you see that there are a lot of subdivided houses below this roof, they may suffer from high temperature and high energy consuming in summer. So with our material, we can reduce their energy costs for cooling to improve their thermal comfort.
Although it is free of charge, C says it may be difficult to use cooling paints on the rooftop.
We need an agreement of a majority of owners because the rooftop is communal. So it is not easy to do it. Also, some tenants are skeptical, and some tenants wonder if they should let the owners know, fearing the owners will increase the rent after the application. So it is difficult to persuade the residents.
That's our show for this week. Join us on Pearl Magazine, same time next week. Bye for now.